Going to bring you up to date on the 49ers injury situation in their bye week. 49ers, a dark week for them as far as the media goes. Kyle Shanahan did speak to the media on Monday evening conference call to update certain aspects of the team, including the injuries. But nothing on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The team disappears, the coaches disappear, and then they'll be back at it next week as the 49ers begin preparations to face the Tennessee Titans at Levi Stadium. And so things are definitely heating up around the NFL in the playoff picture. Um, I guess you could say things are coming into focus, but yet so much yet to be decided. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the playoff picture a little bit later, but let's just bring you up to date on where the injuries are right now. Coming out of that game against the Cleveland Browns, the most significant injury, the one that's going to have the most lasting effect, will be Ben Barch with a Liz Frank injury. That's a foot injury to the mid foot, and he's going to be out for the season. That's what Kyle Shanahan said. Surgery will not be available, and that's a long recovery. So Liz Frank it can be a sprain, a fracture, or a dislocation of the bones and the ligaments in that midfoot, and so it's typically kind of a twisting of the foot injury, and it requires surgery and a long recovery time. I think what he said was that it was a sprain, so a very significant sprain. Ben Barch started the season as the 49ers left guard, and they really like him, and he's really played well since he's been out there. However, he's just had one injury after another, and it started last season when he got his chance after Aaron Banks was injured. Played well in the limited time he was out there, went into the offseason as the 49ers starting left guard. But, from training camp up to this point, it's just been one injury after another. This will be his second trip to injured reserve. He missed some time earlier in the season with a high ankle sprain. So now it's going to be Spencer Burford. Burford was, of course, the starting right guard for the 49ers during that Super Bowl season. Kind of lost his playing time and lost his spot as John Feliciano worked into that role. Those two ended up splitting time a little bit, and then Feliciano just took over that job. And since then, when he was called upon in the Super Bowl, I think the 49ers lost a lot of faith in him, a lot of confidence in him at the guard position, but they worked beginning last year on having him be the swing tackle. So that's where he was. He was a swing tackle through training camp. And then he got injured early this season. And then when they came back, instead of having him at the swing tackle, they decided, let's just keep him at guard and move him over to left guard, because at that point, Connor Colby was struggling, the rookie. And so Burford came in. It was Burford and Barch, and now it's going to be Spencer Burford. So Austin Pleasance is the 49ers swing tackle at this point, with Matt Hennessy being the backup center. So see what the 49ers do with Ben Barch out of action here. I would imagine Connor Colby now will be active on game days and serve as a backup guard as well. So Barch is out. And Kyle Juszczyk had some broken ribs, or at least a broken rib, a fracture that had him removed from that game against Cleveland. And so definitely somebody who can benefit from the bye week. So we'll see if he's able to get back on the field when the 49ers return to action. That is not seen, as far as I understand, as a long-term injury, but certainly something that he can definitely benefit from the rest of 2 weeks. This week, no activity. Next week, getting ready to face the Tennessee Titans. And the other injury that was sustained in that game was linebacker Nick Martin with the concussion. So he's in the concussion return to play protocol. So again, good thing for him that there's no game this week. There's no rush to get back out there. As far as the guys who have been injured, who could come back, it looks like Eddie Pinheiro is the guy most likely to come back and play against Tennessee. Matt Gay filled in admirably 4 for 4 on field goals, 4 for 4 on extra points. But Eddie Pinheiro, 49ers are looking to get him back as he missed a couple of games with a hamstring injury. And then the team kind of remains hopeful. That's the word that Kyle Shanahan used, that Tatum Bethune, high ankle sprain, can return. And also defensive lineman Yetur Gross-Matos. He's been out with a hamstring injury, but in the words of Shanahan, Gross-Matos had a very good workout on Monday, and they're hoping that with another couple weeks that he can get back out there. 49ers do need more depth on the defensive line, although a couple of guys that they've added during the course of the season, Cleveland Ferrell and Keon White, really looking like big acquisitions. Another defensive lineman who probably won't be able to play is Sam Okwanu. He had the high ankle sprain coming out of that game against the Carolina Panthers. And then there are the guys on the injury list. Don't expect to see Brandon Ayuk this season. In fact, John Lynch on the KNBR morning show was asked about Ayuk's status with the team, or, is it realistic to think that he could come back and play this season? And Lynch's answer was telling. Long pause, and he said, yeah, I'm not sure if it's realistic, but they're hopeful. So, I would be absolutely shocked if Brandon Ayuk returns and makes any kind of, I'd be shocked if he returns. I'd be shocked if the 49ers open the practice window. Let's put it this way. I'd be surprised if the 49ers open the practice window. I'd be shocked if he steps on the field for the team this season. That's nothing, I haven't been saying for a little bit. Back in the off season, I had heard, good things about where he was with his recovery in training camp. I think there was optimism seeing him out there on the practice field running around, seeing him run routes before the preseason game against the Las Vegas Raiders. But since then, it's really, the arrow has been pointing down on possible return for Brandon Ayuk. And of course, we know, what's going on with the contract situation. No more guaranteed money for him. So it certainly looks quite evident at this time where that is going. Jacob Cowing, he's, I think, healthy or getting really close. However, with Sky Moore doing as well as he's doing on the return game, there's really not a role for him. And I think that's it. Yeah, because Gross-Matos is on injured reserve. One thing of note that is very interesting, and we talked about this a little bit last week, Eric Kendricks, whom the 49ers had an agreement with for one day, and quite frankly, angered the 49ers when he pulled that commitment and said, I'm going to Dallas instead to reunite with Mike Zimmer. A little bit more information on that. Eric Kendricks is a middle linebacker. 49ers wanted him to play the will linebacker spot, line up next to Fred Warner because Dre Greenlaw was out. And then that opportunity came available for him to reunite with Mike Zimmer, who coached him with the Vikings and also play the middle linebacker spot. Well, apparently in the offseason, as a free agent, Kendricks was available, had some procedures done, and is now healthy. And the 49ers kind of swallowed their pride and said, okay, we wanted you last year. You're still the same player that they wanted. So they're bringing him back, and Kendricks are bringing him back. He was never here. But Kendricks also was willing to accept a spot on the 49ers practice squad. So he's with the team, and a guy who potentially could work his way into some sort of role, see where it goes. I don't know. I would say right now, if Bethune is not available, then maybe Kendricks takes over for Curtis Robinson. But if Bethune returns to action, I would think that he would remain in that job that he had, that he's playing pretty well at the time he got injured. So that's the 49ers injury situation. They seem to be getting a little bit more healthy, I guess. It's like two guys come back, they lose one guy. Offense is looking as healthy as it's been all season. I think the two guys that won't be around for the rest of the year are Ayuk, as I stated, and also Ben Barch. Okay, so let's talk about where the 49ers are heading into the bye week, because it's pretty significant. Oh, I forgot one other guy. How could I forget about Fred Warner? Fred Warner's on injured reserve. He apparently is pushing to get back out there on the field. Now, obviously, the 49ers would have to make the playoffs. They'd probably have to win a game or two in the playoffs for it to even be a factor. Fred Warner has been kind of grinding on John Lynch a little bit, telling him that he's going to be available if the 49ers make a deep playoff run. Now, I know the 49ers feel like they just can't put him out there in harm's way after that ankle fracture that he had, dislocated and fractured ankle against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So, they're going to follow what the doctors say. But this is an injury that typically somebody can come back from in a shorter period of time than you would think. It doesn't have the recovery time of an ACL. It's considered around a 3-month injury. And from what I understand, Fred Warner is in a hyperbaric chamber. He's coming to the facility quite often. He's putting the bug in people's ears that he wants to play. Long shot, absolutely. Rule it out entirely, not with Fred Warner. So we'll see. That'll be something that will be determined as time goes on, just as it'll be determined as time goes on how the 49ers shape up in the playoff picture. But I got to say, right now, things are looking good. I mean, this 49ers team has kind of defied what you would have expected from a team that's had those injuries that I've talked about. So right now, they are the number 7 team out of 7 teams that make the postseason, but their 9-4 record, their good record in the division, their good record in the conference puts them in a really favorable position. And as the 49ers scatter, as they rest their bodies, and they sit back with the remote in their hand and watching the games unfold this weekend, one thing is certain. The 49ers, who are number 7 right now, will be no worse than number 6 when the weekend's games are over. So, and there's even a scenario, I believe, where they can get as high. I mean, could they even get as high as number 1? And that's with obviously a lot of help along the way. So, the Bears are number 1 right now. Oh, I guess they can't get to number 1, because if the Bears win over the Packers, they would stay at number 1. If the Packers beat the Bears, they're already ahead of the 49ers. So they would go up um, to number 1 or number 2, depending on what the Rams do. But the 49ers could be in the top spot in the NFC West if the Rams, and these are obviously big ifs, if the Rams lose at the Arizona Cardinals and the Seattle Seahawks lose at the Atlanta Falcons. So I guess, coming out of the Rams loss to the Carolina Panthers on Sunday, stranger things have happened. Just a good week, I guess, for the 49ers, just to sit back and see if these NFC teams can beat up on each other, including Thursday night football, Cowboys at the Lions. Almost kind of an elimination game, as those are the teams that are most closely behind the 49ers. Of course, the 49ers are also the Panthers are kind of hanging around there. The 49ers have the advantage over the Panthers for any wild card possibility because of their head-to-head victory on Monday Night Football. But kind of see it as a Lions Cowboys elimination game. I know it's too early to say that, but in a sense, I guess you could look at that. Who would the 49ers want to win this game? I suppose they would want the Cowboys to win, just to give them a little bit more of a cushion for that 7th spot, or like I said, after this week, it'll be the 5th spot or the 6th spot that they're guaranteed to be in with how the games shake out, how the schedule shakes out. So that's the quick update, the injury update, 49ers playoff status update. Thanks so much for watching this video. Give me a like, comment down below. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. And that is it for now.